Thank you so much for watching the Patriot podcast. My name is Dell. On the program today, we will be looking at one issue that has been a hard cry to almost every Nigerian out there, and that is the issue of insecurity and how it affects the economy of this nation. We have Dr. Hassan Saddik Arivi right here to discuss this issue, and he is a security and a strategic expert. We're glad to have you, sir.
Thank you for having me.
We have our in-house analysts as well to discuss this issue. We have Uchenna Simon, who we also call Prince UC Ingawa. Glad to have you today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, let's start with Dr. Saddik. Since 2002, almost every Nigerian knows a particular phrase, which is insecurity, insecurity. Now, everybody, children, adults. How did we get here in the first place?
Thank you, the listeners. First of all, we should understand that Nigeria is an emerging nation. But in terms of nation building, whatever is a threat, existential, we take it very strictly and solve them through the means of strategy. Security of life and property is even number one priority of government. But over the years, I said the government concentrate more on security of defense of life and property, leaving some other aspect of social security. But due to the evolutions of human being, population is increasing, activities are changing with even the advent of fast-growing technology. Then a lot of insecurity, other forms now started coming in. And for us now to deal with it, it's like wake up and see a flood in your house. This is what has happened over the years, where government did not invest in other aspects of human security, but concentrating only on the state security. Now we now reach a level, the populace, the people, are now become the problem to themselves. Whereby, if you look at today, we are having a military everywhere, where ideally they are not supposed to be.
Yeah.
And in terms of internal security, police is the front line in terms of internal security. While if you look at the issue of insurgency, territorial, those are burdens on the armed forces. But because we've not been able to invest in economic security is what takes care of the citizens. First of all, look at food security, housing security, education security, and you now talk of employment security. Now the population is growing, and this is not there. To the extent we are now having what I call already made army. And in any given society, there are enemies of the state.
Yeah.
It is normal if you take an individual today, it is not everybody 100% who likes you. The same way a nation, a state, a community, there are people who is envious of you. The same way on that purpose, you now see that we have the enemy of state who are not happy due to one common policy or political reasons, one thing or the other, or for their selfish interest. Then they try to create that havoc and they use people, they bring people inside, but majorly for the purpose of their personal interest. This is what the past, we are now having all these security challenges. And you also agree with me that an idle mind is a devil workshops, where you have the able youth who are growing faster, there's no job, the energy is there.
Now, let me ask Prince Ingawa if it is the same school of thought that you have, that it is based on the insecurity, food insecurity, educational insecurity, that we are having all of these challenges in Nigeria.
Well, the issue of insecurity, first of all, insecurity is not only the responsibility of the government. Insecurity is a responsibility that all of us should come together and tackle. And most importantly, just like Dr. Saddik said, an idle mind is a devil's workshop. And when you are too idle, you have opened yourself to be used by anyone.
Mhm.
Any little opportunity you will certainly give in. That is why, out of all the branches of insecurity as mentioned, I think the one I'm so concerned about is food insecurity and employment insecurity.
Insecurity.
If a nation can actually tackle these two, believe me, you will drastically bring down insecurity in all levels.
Let me look at it from if the people themselves could be a problem to themselves. Like, does it have to be that the government didn't provide this and that is why we're having this challenge? Or can the people actually be the problem to themselves as well?
Well, it's a two-way thing. There are parts that the government have not actually done all they can.
Hmm.
When I say there are parts the government have not done to a very large extent, when a particular administration comes to an end, you you see arrest of senior military officers here and there, charged for corruption and all. So these are sabotage that affects the government to work effectively on tackling insecurity in the country. And the other part is the citizens not really coming together to support the government to tackle the insecurity itself. Because in so many occasions we have heard where citizens are harboring these criminals. They assist them, some of them rent their houses for them, when you definitely know that this is what this particular person does for a living. But you harbor him because instead of paying you the normal prices they pay for your services, they double it. So I don't want to be one-sided, blaming the government. The government have their own role to play, and the citizens have their own role to play.
In your area as an expert, what have the people done that they shouldn't have done that has caused insecurity?
Okay, I think first of all, I differ from my prince
Okay.
that he look at it from two ways. That is fine. But as an expert, I look it in totality of the government's responsibility
Okay.
because you cannot give what you don't have. Government, the leaders are the eye of society, and it is the way you chart it that the citizens follow. In an emerging society, you give the citizens what they need, not what they want. Because your need will sustain than what you want. Now, if you look at it, that is why I said we are the architects of our problems. Yes, over time, government has not been able to understand the need of other aspects of security. Looking at defense security alone, if you ask an average Nigerian today, when you say what is security, what they understand is about arms and ammunition.
Yeah.
No. Security is beyond that. That is why I said, what about the food security? If government has put police in place, you have put army in place, you have put this in place, and I don't have a work, how do I feed myself? How do I clothe? Housing, education, healthcare, how do I afford it?
Should it justify
So-
my defense of being an insurgent, for example?
It justified to a large extent because you have not been able to chart a way where people become self-consciousness against their own society. If you go to America, UK today, a mother will call a police that's against his child.
Yes.
Thank you. That is security. Because he believes the state, they are more responsible to the state than an individual. Because the state has taken care of the need of individual. So these people, because the government here has not seen it, that we must cater for the individual, that will now in turn to cater for the state.
But
So they decided now to be enemy of the state.
But should my hunger, Prince, should my hunger blind my eyes to seeing the rights, and I'm supposed to do it as a Nigerian?
Yeah, that is why I don't know the person's reasons of pushing all the blame
To the government?
to the government. But I know that the citizens
Yes.
have hand too in whatever that bedevils this country. And that is why I said that the blame will go, the responsibility should go both the government and the people. And if you look at it, who are the government? They are still people.
People.
The president is a citizen of this country. The vice president, all arms of government, they are not foreigners. They are people that have their uncles, have children, have mentioned them. Do you understand? So I still insist that people, the citizens, have a role to play in tackling these insecurities. Like he said, insecurity doesn't stop at carrying firearms to defend people. But at the same time, government cannot give everybody job. That's the truth. So you can. It's not sustainable. They cannot, and that is where the idea of being self-employed start to come in. People get self-employed. So I don't see it as a reason for you to become an insurgent simply because government did not provide job for you.
Now, we're even looking at just one aspect of it, which is, let's say, the violent extremism, right? And then you find where people have used it to be a form of business for them.
Yeah.
Where there's peace, and then no, we're not getting what we want, so we create an uproar in a community for us to get something out of it.
Yes, you see, yes, Prince is right in his own way. But the point I'm trying to make is that in military operations, the commander take the lead, the rest follow.
That's right.
Thank you. If a government has not done his part to percentage, how do you expect the citizens to follow suit?
Big question.
This is where. That does not mean the citizen does not have a part to play. But government is the first. That is why you must take responsibility before you take command. If you have not taken responsibility, how do you take command? In a certain traditional home, the man is the head of the family. He provides the food. And the madam go to the kitchen and cook it. If you have not made provision for the feeding, do you just come and say, where is the food on the table? It doesn't work in that way.
Yeah.
Yes, this is where it is. So it is on that note you now see that people now take advantage of what we call the security implications. If we look at an example where Fulani farmer had a clash, we've often provided solution that there are certain policy, if you don't close the gap, the enemy of state will take advantage and penetrate. Today, I'm sorry to say it, there are a lot of people today who cause havoc who are not tied to IPOP.
Yes.
Thank you. But because government did not nip it at the earlier stage, a group of people will come out and create problem and call it in the name of IPOP.
Yeah.
So as other criminal elements. So this is what we call security implications. So you could see that from day one, if government understand it and close the gap, that will not happen.
Now we have, like I said, let me take you back to the issue
Yes.
of when you have people making money out of some people's plight.
Yes, it has come to a stage all over the world from time immemorials that people find a way for their interest. But it is now the law who now said this is not the right channel. Yes, there are people who believe that, look, why should I have to go out early in the morning to go and do this and earn a living while I can sit down, I'll put a nail on the road. Every car that is coming, their tire will burst and they'll have to come back and buy certain things from me. That is their own way, what they think. And you cannot limit human being in their way they think, but it is the law that will now regulate it, which is the society, which is the government. So people can sit down and think of anything. This is the way he wants to. They know some cases that this way it is wrong, it is not right. But that's their own desire and hope.
Now we have a prince. We have the government has released millions of dollars to buy ammunition to create a safe, in quote, a safe place for Nigerians. And in those same places, after those funds have been released, killings still take place. As we speak now, killings took place yesterday in some states in Nigeria. Where are we getting it wrong? Is it that the Nigeria's government is not following up on those responsible, to handle those responsibilities?
Well, in terms of insecurity, I don't think I have the intellectual um, knowledge
No, that yeah.
of how the security network of Nigeria works.
Okay.
Most importantly, will I say, is more of a confidential kind of uh, government comes in, and these arms of government make this make these laws, and you don't expect a military personnel to go after criminals without giving the order to do so. So for me, I feel there are things that doesn't go public. That is why they remain confidential. There are security details that you don't expect a civilian to know about, and so on and so forth. But we know when things are wrong. That's the fact. Even when I'm not a security personnel, when things are not going right, I know that things are not going right. When you see a particular process is being sabotaged, definitely I know this particular process is being sabotaged, even though I'm not in the security cycle.
Because at a point it metamorphosed from just the killings to kidnapping, where we didn't have the issues of kidnapping like this in the past, but then
Well,
now all of a sudden,
in terms of kidnapping, will I say that I would say there is something that happens in this country if you look at it. A particular menace will start taking place in the south. You might not experience it in the north, but any day it will start in the north. It will be catastrophic.
That's right.
The kidnapping was known all over the southeast, all over the southwest, and all over the south-south. Those are places we that are in the north, those are the places we hear kidnapping. We don't know what is kidnapping.
Yes.
So, but that is why the moment the northern part got the knowledge of how to kidnap, some criminal elements actually got to understand you don't have to rob somebody, that if you carry him, the money will come out. So they indulge in that, and their own became worse. Worse in the sense that you can actually stop a bus that is carrying almajiris and call the malam that they should be bringing 3,000 to rescue them. So that is why any crime that is coming up from the southern part of the country, the next step should be to start defending the north, so that this particular menace should not creep into the north and should be managed in the south.
Is it like sometimes we take things for granted as the government? We condone some of these things until it gets worse.
Thank you. I think we've just finished discussing the issue of what causes.
Yes.
Now we are going into the issue of solutions. Now he mentioned that, I think this is my area in terms of the structure of security. And what we are discussing here is within the level of public. Yes. Now, in the structure of security, we have armed forces, which comprises Air Force, Navy, Army. While we now have the police, we have DSS, civil defense, and other security apparatus. The internal security today, by constitutions, is only vested in the police. while territorial integrity is vested in the armed forces, where you have the sea, the air, and the land, the border. Now, you are trying to say that a lot of money has been given to the security and all that.
Yes.
You know, I've said it that you cannot give what you don't have.
Yes.
To me, as an expert, we've not spent enough in our security.
But have we seen,
Now,
in practical terms, what
I'll
have
give
been
it to you
spent
why
already?
we have not spent enough.
Yeah.
Because those who don't understand will tell you so amount of money is being given to army, is being given to this, and we're not seeing anything. Yes. As an expert, we have not spent enough. And I'll tell
Even
you,
with the $1 billion last time in Buhari's regime,
we've not spent enough.
Now-
and I'll give it to you.
now
so
I
that you
need to
can, so that the
understand-
public can understand it.
Yes.
Because it's very critical. Sometimes, because we don't understand it, people look at it that no, it
Monies
is
were
not
given,
so.
yeah.
Now, in terms of the military, it takes two strategy.
Okay.
We call it defensive capability and offensive capability of armed forces. This defensive capability, it means you must be able to have equipment, training, manpower that will be able to defend anything that comes in. Then you now use the approach. In offensive capability is where you also build intelligence to make sure before anything happens, you have get the information and you go after them. This is the two. If you now take in terms of offensive capability, what are the approaches you needed to put in place from the beginning? Because it's a build-up. It is not on one regime. In fact, it can build up for 50 years. Then you can now come back and say, in your defensive capability, I've achieved 50%. And the same thing in defensive capability. Today, our armed forces is not yet there due to what they're having. In terms of the police, Egypt today, the population of Egypt is not as Nigeria. Nigeria is over 200 million.
Yeah.
Now, what is the numbers of police? The Egypt today, I will tell you, they are up to getting to 1 million police. What is the size of Egypt? What is the size of Nigeria? And Nigerian police today are not up to 1 million.
And there,
Then
some of
what
them are securities
are
for
security,
our
VIP, and all that.
security.
Now, what is the issue of their equipment, training, and welfare, and the barrack? You could agree now that we have not spent enough. Nigeria is supposed to have minimum of 1.2 million police that takes care of over 200 million citizens. Because
that's
they are different.
just the police.
The police. Before you talk of the equipment, before you talk of the welfare, before you talk of the barrack. Now, what is the welfare of police as at today? It's zero compared to Egypt police. So you could see that based on this, we are not yet there. The same thing if you come to armed forces, because you have navy. How many numbers of ship do we have? How many numbers of fighter jets do we have in the Air Force? Before we talk of the armor tank when it comes to army.
No,
and what is the numbers of the army officers we have today?
But we have the same armed forces or the same security from Nigeria taken to other countries to defend.
Yes, it is not when you have because armed forces, it has to be a standby institutions. It's not only when there's issue, you now start recruiting. So in some cases where there's no problem, then that does not mean you cannot deploy where there's an issue. But the point we are trying to make is that you must be able to build up your armed forces to the level where you can now say you have achieved defensive capability to 50 to 70%. If I digress a little, the recent Sudan war, which is still going on today, you are aware that Nigerian citizens were taken from Sudan to Egypt before we enter the border, before we can be able to evacuate them. Why, to me, I said that is why, because our defensive capability is still low. Because before then, through intelligence, we're supposed to move our navy ship in Sudan Sea and move our citizens into the some of the ship and take to nearby safe before you evacuate them. That shows you have your defensive capability up. The British citizens, some of the chief there said 72 hours, they must evacuate all the citizens of Britain. If not, the service chief should be sacked because they know that their defensive capability is up to that. Do we have the ship? No. What size of ship are you taking there? How do you continue adding into this ship? How do you maintain them? How do you train the officers? Because issue of security is evolving. there are different dimensions to it.
Now, the issue of training, I actually wrote
But
that
I
here.
feel
Yeah.
if we are taking that route
Yes.
of taking a ship to Sudan Sea, that's a very long process compared to what they actually achieved.
How does it be a long process, if I may ask?
Yeah, before our ships here, let's assume we have those kind of ships you're talking about. So if they start moving to Sudan, when will they get to Sudan
Okay.
and start evacuating
Evacuating.
our citizens
Okay.
down to a safer ground where they can evacuate them back to Nigeria?
Okay.
So I feel, well, with the other arrangement of taking
Because they were flown.
yes,
They
so
were flown to
taking
Egypt.
our citizens from Sudan,
Sudan.
to Egypt, and Egypt to, I think those process took, I think, few days.
No, I think that is where I said, as an expert, that's where I come in.
Mm,
The Sudan war did not break just in the blink of an eye.
mm,
Your intelligence services all over the world has hinted you, this is what is going on. This is likelihood the outcome. It's on the premises of this, your ship is already there with. It is not when the issue has started. No. By the time the issue is started, nobody is free
So
at that
which
time.
means if
So the point I'm trying to make in essence is that in terms of security,
mm,
in defensive capability and offensive capability,
yes,
you have get the informations that this country, this is what is going on. There's likelihood that so things will happen. It's on these premises that the Nigerian ship will move there. How did the Britain ship move there? The Royal Navy of Britain. How did the American ship move there? So you could see it.
Okay.
That is why I said it is on the premises of your capability that you have built on defensive and offensive capability.
But
But
like
just
you
like
So
said,
you said,
when
yes,
the issue
just
now
with the
comes,
process.
that is when you now
Yeah.
move your ship. It's a warship you move into there that evacuate numbers of people while you are waiting standby.
yeah, just like
So you can
said,
now agree with me that security, it is not a child's play.
Mhm.
It's a capital intensive.
Now,
so are you
So
you
that is
saying
why I'm trying
there
to
is
say that
no
Yes.
the cost we are
sabotage?
serving today, we are saying we are putting into our security today, it is not yet enough. I'm not
Because-
taking it away some element of sabotage.
The issue is this,
Yes.
doctor.
Yes.
With all the amount of monies, of funds that have been released, I think that the security owe it to Nigerians to say, okay, this is how far this fund has gone,
Okay.
so that Nigerians are aware. When we see this, we know it is from this particular fund that this was being achieved.
Okay.
But somehow, like you said, the issue of sabotage, where you have, yes, we know when the monies are released, then we don't hear anything. Like,
Okay.
I feel like it's a trend in this country where we know when the monies are released, then, it's like you throw a stone in an ocean, then you don't hear anything at all.
No, you can tell us.
Okay,
You know,
I
he's
think
he's a consultant.
the
Yes.
issue of
So
where
many of
certain
the
things that
security, yeah.
certain things that it is not for the public fold. This is where it comes in.
Yes. Okay.
If I give you a typical example, I've said that in terms of if you are talking of offensive capability, there are approaches, there are equipment, there are classifieds. If money is being released in terms of classifieds, arms, and ammunitions, you don't disclose it to the public
Okay.
because the enemy will now know what you have and the locations. And I will tell you vividly, the institutions know this. So if you are trying to set public should know, there are departments who will now have the arms audit that okay, this thing has been bought is there.
Now
So
let's talk.
as at the time, because what the citizen wants is
Yes,
the safety.
exactly.
But how do you do it should not be their responsibility.
Now let's
because
talk a
that
little bit.
responsibility has been given to you.
Let's look at the issue of the service chiefs, Prince, where we had, before the end of the President Muhammadu Buhari's regime, it was almost everywhere. Send these service chiefs away. They are not doing what they're supposed to do. I don't know where you stood then, where you with, the issue of them leaving and what your reasons were. But was it justifiable for Nigerians to say, you know what, we're tired of these service chiefs. Let's get a new set. Let's get someone new to handle this.
Yeah, just like I said earlier, security is a very delicate kind of issue, in the sense that not everything is meant to go public. there are arrangements, there are operations that you don't hear about.
Mhm.
And that is the problem, where some of us that are civilian find it very difficult to know what the military have done so far, because there are intelligence they don't share with you. There are operations they don't tell the public. Even when the operation is even successful, to a layman, he will feel like, if you have done this and you executed it well, why not make it known? But they don't make it known.
Mm.
There are reasons which is best known to them, because they are security operators. Do you understand? So for me, I feel that even though during President Buhari's regime, the service chiefs were not sacked, but the present the incumbent president came in and do what he feels is right. Probably that's where policy comes in. That's why the way Dr. Saddik will see this water might not be the way I will see it. So probably President Buhari then have his reasons why he doesn't want to sack them, because that's the same thing that happened with during
Jonathan?
no, during the service chiefs, sorry, the one from Borno State, the chief of staff from Borno State.
Chief of Defense Staff or Chief of Army Staff?
Chief of
Brutai
Army
is the
Staff,
Chief of Army Staff.
Yes.
Yes.
During Brutai's time. I think Brutai is one of the Chief of Army Staffs that served for a very longer time. They were not, and there was pressure all over.
There was pressure.
That please relieve these people so that other people can take over. And what happened? He did not. And when Nigerians keep pushing, the president came out and told them that you don't know the implication of retiring these people. So, and that is where intel comes in, that there are some intels you will not be opportune to hear about them. So now other people feel, okay, maybe if you sack them, there might be a level of sabotage on operations and all. And the president, being a former military general, he understands these terminologies. But I have never seen, a transition of army. That's a transition where you retire the chiefs after retiring them, and everywhere is calm and cool. I think this is one of them. This particular one, it appears as if nothing happened.
It was as if, in my own words now, it looks like it was long overdue. Like people were looking forward to seeing, the change in these service chiefs. Now, what do you think the change in these service chiefs will bring to this country?
Okay, if I digress back a little, so we can have a proper understanding.
Go ahead. Yes.
In terms of the military management, the president is commander-in-chief. He feels he has the right to take whoever to be the service chiefs who can serve. One, the president do that on royalty. We know Nigeria is a country who have parted in a long way of military rules, where we have coup and counter-coup. Now, every president that emerge will appoint a royalist to his government and to democratic system. This is number one. Two, a man that is competent into the operations that will be able to deliver. Yes, Brutai is one of the longest, in fact, the most longest serving chief of army staff we've ever had in Nigeria. Now, when he stayed there for long, where 2 ways people have said, no, you have to change service chief 2 years, 3 years, is to allow others to get to the peak of their career. That is number one. Two is also to renew the idea of military bringing certain things to bear by different person come into being. This is two. But the matter on ground is another thing you have to look at it. When a new person come, can he change the circumstances? Because despite the Butari has left, the Boko Haram is still existing. Bandits has not really wiped out. But the essence to me why you should change them is that change them for other people to get to the peak and let us see. That has not changed the reality on ground. So you see, it is on this note that sometimes a head of state will say, okay, let's change you. So that is where, as he said, the president said, you people don't understand what is on ground. So bringing a new service chief does not mean you have eliminated issue of security completely. But the public also right by saying change them because they feel you are there and we didn't see
For
any
that
change.
period of
What
time.
are you staying there for?
Exactly.
But in our next part, it is good to change them so that other people will be able to aspire to get to that level. But it is still the same strategy that you must bring into the system. How do we sort it out?
Now,
This is on the past.
okay.
Now you are talking about the current service chief.
Yes.
Yes, the new government has appointed the new service chief. The new service chief now will have timeline, operational timeline to bring the issue of insecurity to down another level. Because in military operations, they must timeline and target. I've said this several media platforms. Since the government has decorated them, they have Zoom office. They are now supposed to come back and give us what it takes. When I say give us, meeting the president and let the country know that within so time, issue of Boko Haram, issue of a bandit, issue of IPOP, all forms of criminality and insecurity, is it 3 months you are giving them that you want these things to be completely eliminated? It must be timeline. Then what does it involved to do that? They will now come up with a strategy. It is on this strategy the government to say, okay, based on this, we can do this. I give you a typical example. If the Air Force today required a lot of fighter jets because some of the unmanned forests where the bandits they hide, and you needed a particular fighter jet that is anti-aircraft, anti-missile, whatever you call it, and we don't have enough. And these are things we don't manufacture because technology is changing. Drones are there. You also have to procure. There must be training. There must be transfer of technology. So all these will form how can we be able to sort it out.
Okay, so
but what the
looking
public
at
want,
yes,
we want solution.
now talking about the public wanting solution.
Yes.
There's a whole lot of doubt about the President Tinubu's administration. People are doubting if he's going to deliver. And I feel this is one of the strategies that, if taken very seriously, will give a whole lot of credit to the President Tinubu's administration. Now, coming from Dr. Hassan Saddik,
Yes.
what would be that recommendation you would give to this government on security that you feel they should take seriously?
You see, if you ask me, well, fine, it is good for people to think in the other way. But President Tinubu, I gave him for now, let me say 50% that is going to deliver.
Okay.
Because the dog that will fight lion, you see his hand.
Is it because of the caliber
Now,
of people he has appointed?
The caliber of people he has appointed.
Yes.
And the renewed hope idea of a starting shows that he as a person, from his mind, from his consonant, from his actions, the body language, there are certain things he's not going to tolerate, especially where the security are not ready to have a synergy, which will have it in the past regime. So on the basis of this, because the first visit he visited the NSA office, he made mention about synergy. When he also appointed the new service chief, he mentioned synergy, which means there was a gap in the previous administration that affected our security. So by him now mentioning and reiterate issue of synergy within the security agencies, it is key, which means any head of any security agency and you don't synergy with your partner, you are liable to be fired. Because a government must also show commander-in-chief he can bite when the need arises.
Okay, so I'm going to stop you there because we don't have time. Prince Ngawai, what would be your recommendation security-wise to the president?
Well, just like he said, synergy in general, because even the saying that goes united we stand, and divided we fall. So is there loopholes with the previous service chief? Yes. There I know some of the service chiefs then that, like, they are fighting themselves, will I even say even spiritually.
Hmm.
And you start to wonder. So you have your position, I have mine,
Yeah.
but still they are fighting each other. So if we are fighting each other, how can we achieve the aim? So I think synergy is just the word
Hmm.
for this present service chiefs.
If you've been watching, we've been talking with Dr. Saddik Hassan Arivi, PhD. He's the MD and CEO of Hasino Security Strategic Consult Limited. He is a security and strategic expert. We're so glad to have you. Thank you so much, sir, for coming.
Thank you for having me.
And of course, we thank you, Prince Yusingawa, for coming.
My pleasure.
And to every Nigerian, can we be security cautious and take care and be your brother's keeper? My name is Dell, and make sure that you like every video that you see of the Patriot podcast and share it with your friends. Thank you for watching.